Hello and welcome to Driver's Therapy. Today we're going to be installing Radium's dual catch can for the RB26 DETT. Now I'm super excited because after doing some research about the benefits of catch cans and how important they are, especially on an RB26, we're going to be installing them, and it's going to be really exciting because in my opinion, this is the best catch can system you could buy in the market. Now there's a catch with the catch can. This kit right here is for the R32 GT-R, and they haven't made a kit for the R33 yet, but if we could figure out a creative way where we could put the little catch cans, then we could give that feedback to Radium and possibly they could design something better for the R33 as well. Now we have instructions here in a PDF format. We're going to be following them, so this should be a great install. All right, let's get started. So the first step, with a 10mm socket, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. The second step in the instructions is going to be to remove the color items, and it's going to be the parts to the original PCB system in the RB26. So we have our hoses off and we're moving on to the next step. Step 3 is going to be removing and installing Radion's own fittings. So what they say is to put a socket in here and just wiggle it out. So we're going to just try it. And these are not moving. Okay, so we found a way how to get these fittings off. I got one of them off and it is pretty difficult. So what I have in here is a 13mm socket, and we have a long breaker bar, and then I have a long extension. And what you have to do with the long breaker bar is you first have to break it loose by moving it left or right. And then after that, I'm using two people. Elise is gonna be moving it left and right, and I'm gonna be pulling up on it. All right, so we moved it once and now it's kind of loose. And it's out. So it says in the instructions to put the Radion fittings inside the freezer for 10 to 15 minutes. So the manual says to lubricate the fittings, so I'm just gonna use some light engine oil. And these bad boys are definitely cold, so all right, let's go put them in. So we have some oil in the bottom of the fitting, and the manual says to use a 14mm on the stainless steel portion and to go ahead and slowly tap the fitting back in, and they say not to hit the black part. So I'm not sure if I'm hitting it hard enough. Let's see. There it goes. So step 5 is going to involve removing the wastegate solenoid and this bracket. So let's go ahead and do that. Step number 6 is to remove this resistor box. Step number 7 is we're going to go ahead and lubricate our O-ring, and we're going to attach one of these banjo fittings to a catch can. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and put it inside. And it says to use a 6mm Allen. I'm going to go until I guess it stops. But this turns with it. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit tighter, not too tight. It's about right there. So step number 8 is we're going to be attaching this bracket to our catch can, and we're going to be attaching these Allen screws using a 3mm tool. But it also says to add some Loctite. We're not going to be doing that because we're going to be test fitting on our R33. We're not sure if it's going to work or not, so we're going to not Loctite them. Number 9 says to temporarily remove the dipstick, and that's what we're going to be doing. Took that out, and then we're going to be lubricating another banjo fitting. I'm using the same oil that the car takes, and this one's going to be going on top. Using my 6mm Allen, I'm going to be locking it down nice and tight. And we're going to reinstall the dipstick. Okay, we're now going to go ahead and attach the catch can using the hardware they gave us to the body. Step 11 says cut a short section of the 5/8 hose to a 2-inch length. So step number 12 says to use the provided clamp and to go ahead and push it down on this part of the engine. And I think we're good. Okay, we're going to be lubricating this 90-degree barb, and we're going to be doing just one side and then putting it on that connector which is put on the PCV side. And it says to fully seat, so we're going to go ahead and that it does not need a clamp. Step number 14 says to lubricate the other barb of the side and then put the hose inside there, fully seat it, and it does not need a clamp. Okay, so we saw a difference in the kit already between the R32 and the R33, and it's going to be in this step where they tell you to connect this hose to the catch can. Well, in the R32, it looks like the catch can is canted a little bit more clockwise, but we actually got lucky and found that we could still utilize everything by essentially pushing this 90-degree fitting down and connecting it like this. I think that's going to work, so we're going to do it. All right, I'm going to lubricate these ends here real quick and then put the hose in. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and tighten down this fitting, but I don't want to mess it up, so I'm going to put a towel over it and then I'm just going to turn it. And that's it. Okay, we're going to be doing step number 19, and what we did is we cut a piece of hose for our balance hose, and now we're going to be putting it all together. So the first step is to apply a little bit of oil on our adapters here. And then we have to get these clamps on the hose and then put everything together. All right, let's go put it in the car. All right. So our next step is we're going to set up this 90-degree push fitting in, but what we need to do is we need to get one of the clamps on first. Then we need to go ahead and apply a little bit of oil on our fitting. We're going to put our fitting inside. Open up our clamp. All right. And now we're going to attach it so we can get the proper length for our hose. Okay, so we're now going to go ahead and push this fitting in. It clipped in, And then at this time, we're gonna go ahead and measure and then cut our line. And we added some oil already to these barbs. We're gonna connect this hose here. Okay, we cut it, and now we're gonna attach it. And then we're gonna go ahead and tighten down this fitting. And I'm gonna be gentle. And it's good. Okay, so on step 25, we're gonna go ahead and remove the second catch can's dipstick. We're gonna remove that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna lubricate the fittings because we're gonna be attaching them. And I'm using the same oil type that's in the car already. And here we go. Okay. Step 27, we got one of the other connectors here. I went ahead and put some oil on it, and I'm going to attach it to one of the hose sides. All right. For our setup, step number 26, we're not doing it because we can't attach that bracket to our R33. So we're going with step number 28, and that's going to be attaching it to the lower portion, or the lower fitting. So for step 29 on the R33 GT-R, it is definitely difficult because there is a wire harness where on the R32 there was a passage for the hose. So what I needed to do on the R32 was I needed to take off 2 clips, and these clips are just white clips like this that hold the harness, just to give it about, I don't know, 1/4 inch movement. And then what I was able to do is I was able to snake the hose to the side of the ABS unit and then bring it up. But you want to do it from this side first, because I couldn't do it from this side. And I have the hose up, so at this point in time, I'm going to connect the catch can and then go from there. So step 35 is going to be connecting this part. I'm going to put some oil on this connector for step 35. Step number 33, we're going to go ahead and put this barb inside this pipe. And let me tell you, once it's in there, it is in there. And now we're going to be routing this hose the same way the instructions have for the R32. We're going to do the same thing. The sensor here. Let's connect the sensor back. And then we're gonna have to measure. We're gonna have to go down here to the actual turbo inlet pipe. All right. All right. All right. So the installation is complete, but we want to show you the finished product and walk over some key points for the R33 beta install of the R32 kit. This kit was originally developed for the R32, and of course this is an R33, and there were some key changes that we had to do or we had to work around. The first one was this hose. Luckily it wasn't a big deal. We were able to route it, the hose bent well, the fittings worked, so that wasn't a big deal. This, I thought that this might stand up too tall and that it would make contact with the hood. So what I did is I put some baby powder on the stainless steel area here, and I closed the hood down, and when I opened it up, the baby powder was there. There wasn't any on top of the insulator pad on the top. And then when we came down, the hardest part of the job, in my opinion, was taking out the press fittings, and it's gonna be this, and then putting in the ones from Radium. Now, originally it says to tap them in there lightly. I ended up having to bang them in as hard as I can because they weren't going in. We froze them. We added some lubrication. I don't know if there's a difference between the R32 and the R33 valve covers or valley covers, but those were really hard to get in. And then the third and fourth note is gonna be on the right side. As you could tell, this catch can is sitting in there with no bracket, but I think it's perfect. It just sits in there nicely. It's not hurting anything. It has clearance with the hood. And I added kind of like this little packaging material just to protect the catch can and the car. But the hardest thing was routing this hose right here. You have to route the hose from left to right on the R33 because there is no clearance. There's a harness here. I had to snip 2 zip ties off from the factory. They were pretty thick, and that gave me enough clearance to navigate that hose through it and connect it to the catch can, but that was very difficult to do. But again, you have to go from the left to the right. So I took it off and I attached it to the one that we got from Radium, and it worked perfectly. But it's there, and I'm excited because when we took all of this apart, it was very oily. There was a lot of oil in the hoses and everything, so this worked out. And that's it, guys. Thank you again for watching. Please press the like button, the subscribe button, and I hope this information is helpful for any Skyline owners out there and also for the company. This was an adventure. It was difficult, but it's in there, and our engine should breathe a little bit better.